Have you ever wanted to get a lot done in the day, but by the time comes when you want to work on something that's really important to you, you end up feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and unmotivated? What if you're not stuck in your daily life because you're unmotivated, but because it's your environment that makes every decision that you make feel very exhausting? Every decision doesn't need to feel quite as heavy as it might right now. What you're experiencing might be decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is not about feeling unmotivated. It's about a lack of design in your physical and mental environment. I don't know about you, but there's so many decisions that I need to make by the time it's breakfast. There's what am I going to wear today? What am I going to have for breakfast? Am I having matcha? Am I having coffee? Am I going out for a walk? Am I answering this email? The options and choices that we have in how we start our day can be a blessing, but it can also lead to this thing called decision fatigue. So by the time we're actually working on something that's truly important to our lives, we've already tried to debate in our heads a million different decisions, leading us to feel way more exhausted than we need to be. And we don't realize that stress is always sort of in the background of our minds. Stress is one of those things that creeps up on us without us even knowing. So all of these little decisions that we're making can leave us feeling really fatigued and overwhelmed. It's all of this invisible decision clutter is what I'll call it, that is leading us to increased stress and really increasing our anxiety levels as well. So in order to not feel overwhelmed, it has nothing to do with your to-do list, but it has everything to do with the how of how you're making decisions all day long. You may actually notice that there are so many successful CEOs and founders that do this one thing. We all know Steve Jobs and his uniform that he wore every single day. We know Mark Zuckerberg, especially when he was first starting off Facebook, he always had the same uniform, and he has been on record to say, I really want to clear my life to make it so that I have to make as few decisions as possible about anything except how to best serve this community. So when we look at the both of them, those are very specific examples in terms of even what their wardrobe is and what they wear, but we can also look at that in terms of the decisions, routines, habits, and rituals that we have in our day. So Jeff Bezos, he has actually said, why do I need to make 100 decisions a day? If I make 3 good decisions a day, that's enough, and they should be as high quality as I can make them. And he's able to do this and able to really focus on the decisions that matter because he has created a morning routine for himself that is regimented and disciplined, where he doesn't have to think about what he's going to do in the morning. It's already laid out for him because it's become such a habit for him. I believe he has said that he wakes up, reads the newspaper, hangs out with his kids, has breakfast, something to that effect, and then by the time it's 10 o'clock, that's when he has his first high decision, high importance meeting, because that's when he's most effective, and he's also alert enough because he's gotten good rest. He has also been on record to say that he always tries to get 8 hours of sleep, and his whole morning has been filled with this routine that he's laid out for himself. So it's really about the time, tools, and energy that you have set up for yourself. You want to make sure that the environment that you're in to make decisions really supports these 3 areas so that you can make the best decision easier to access for yourself. So there are 3 guidelines that I have that I think could support your decision environment so that you can make decisions that matter with more ease and less overwhelm. So let's get into this. Guideline number 1 is default over decision. Try to make things as default as possible so that you don't have to think about what choice you need to make. So this goes back to the time structure of Jeff Bezos and how he structures his morning. This goes back to Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg in what they wear each day and how it's a uniform so they don't have to make those choices and that decision. So think about how you can default more things in your life so that you don't have to make decisions for things that maybe don't matter quite as much. So think about how you can actually default more things in your life versus making decisions about them. So for example, for me, Physical fitness has been a really, really high priority because I need to work through some health issues, but yet even still, sometimes I make excuses for myself saying I don't know what workout, or maybe I'll just work out tomorrow, and I kind of create all of these different excuses, and at the end of the day, some days I actually skip my workout even though it's so important to me. So one thing that I've been trying to do and what has been helping is creating a schedule. And I know that sounds so basic and so simple, but the more that you can create a schedule for yourself, that's one less thing that you have to think about for your day and for the rest of the week. So I know that Saturday morning I'm meeting my trainer and we are going to do a workout. I know Wednesday evening I'm meeting up with a friend and we're doing a class together. And it's just like that by default, that if someone were to ask me what I was doing on a Wednesday night, I would automatically know what that answer is because it has been defaulted into my schedule. So that's more on a personal kind of health front for me, but I also see this working really well when it comes to my work and my business. So a lot of times people actually have certain days that they do certain activities. So I have some creator friends who shoot content on, let's say, a Monday, and then they edit on a Tuesday, and they do one other activity on a Wednesday, and so on and so forth. But for me, in the way that my work is structured, I have a lot of client work, and it's not necessarily always something that I can just allocate one day for one client, another day for another client. It's all sort of on a rolling basis. But because content creation is a part of my work, there's certain things that I can actually default when it comes to my schedule. So I can have maybe a morning where I'm creating content and the light is really good, and in the afternoon is when I can edit, and that can go for all of my clients, let's say. Or Tuesday morning, we are going to write a bunch of copy for all of the upcoming social pieces. There's so many different ways in how you can actually default your schedule, so definitely find something that works for you. But for me, as someone who sort of juggles a lot of different clients, a lot of different work streams, sectioning off time within a specific day really helps me. So it goes back to a little bit of a time blocking method, which has proven to be effective. The one area where I think I need to be a lot more intentional about is meals and eating. And I think there was a video that I've done in the past where I started off the video asking the question of, what am I going to eat today? And I feel like that's something that I'm getting a little bit better with, especially in the morning time. I do have a very default morning breakfast that entails a protein smoothie as well as some cottage cheese and eggs, and I have a whole thing going on for breakfast. But lunch and dinner are also just kind of still a little bit up in the air. I do have some salads and some recipes that I can turn to, but every day it still kind of comes back to that question of, what ingredients do I have? What am I going to eat specifically? Is this enough? Is there enough protein, fat, fiber, all the things? Is it a balanced plate? So that is an area where me personally, I'm going to work on defaulting a bit more to maybe having one specific salad for, let's say, like Monday through Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we do something else. I gotta play around with it a little bit, but I did just want to bring that up because I do think that meals is one area where meals could be a certain area where it is nice to have a default in some ways, especially during the work week when things get so busy. And if you have things defaulted, then there's less likely chance that you're going to eat something that's not nutritious, that is fast food or anything like that. But if you have a default that's healthy, then that's a win. Every default that you create for yourself is a gift to your future self. There's been no area of my life where I know that I've created a little bit of structure, a little bit of a system around where I have regretted it. If anything, it's been the complete opposite, where if I don't have a structure in place, if I'm not organized about something, if I don't intentionally plan for something, then I do regret not having that in place. Guideline number 2 is block creative thinking. As someone who is a creative and needs to use my creative brain as well as my logical side, but what I do for marketing and for social media and for my own creator life, I do need a bit of creativity time. It's a good and a bad thing. It's a great thing to be a creative person and to have a creative mind, but when you are a creative, your thoughts and your ideas and your concepts don't necessarily shut off. I could literally spend all day just ideating and creating a plan for a new business or a a new thing I want to launch or a campaign for a client, I could do that all day. But then at the end of the night, what have I done? I've literally just created a bunch of ideas without actually executing on anything, because ideas are very much in this up in the air dream state, and it's not something that has a solid foundation yet. But the point is that if you don't have specific containers, especially for creative thinking, then it can go off the rails a little bit. So if you are a creative person, and honestly, even if you don't consider yourself a creative person, I think that everyone can benefit from a bit of quiet time to really just dream and think about ideas and maybe put some thoughts down on paper. I do think that this could be a benefit to everybody, but specifically if you do identify yourself as a creative, try time blocking a couple of different times throughout your week specifically for this exercise of dreaming and brainstorming. Setting aside intentional time will allow you to really be thoughtful with how your time is being used throughout the day, and you can be a lot more efficient with it as well. One really key thing about setting up this time for yourself is that you do need to treat it like a meeting. If you are in a lot of client meetings or meetings with your coworkers, you likely don't necessarily reschedule those unless of course you have to, but for the most part, those meetings are set and you expect them to happen. So when you have these creative brainstorms and these meetings with yourself, treat it as important as that, and it's not something that you can negotiate with yourself, because this time really is important to you. And there's this quote that I saw, and it says, "You wouldn't water a plant all day long. It needs cycles of soaking and resting." And the same goes for your creativity. And the last guideline that I have is protect your yes by knowing what your big yes is. And this has to do with knowing what your North Star is, knowing what your vision is, because as someone who likes to say yes to new opportunities and new things, and the possibility is always there with a yes versus a no, it can also get very overwhelming, because then you have all of these decisions to make of, should I be working on this project? Should I be working on that? And then you kind of have a lot of half work done across the board versus completing something that will actually ladder up to your North Star or your vision. So when you know where your focus should go, you know that's where your energy should go, and any other decision that comes along the way that has to do with a project over here, you know that you can say, pause on that, I'm focused on my vision. So when it comes to understanding where you should have your focus, really identify what your big goals are and ask yourself this simple question of, does this move me closer to my vision? And if the answer is yes, then great, go for it. If the answer is a little bit of a hesitation or a no, then you know that the idea, the project doesn't necessarily go away, it just goes into a pause folder. So sometimes when you say quote unquote no, it's not necessarily a no, it's just a not right now. And that can be very strategic when it comes to the decisions that we make every day. Hopefully with these 3 guidelines, it gives you a little bit of a sense of how you can start to think about your decisions in general and free up some of that mental space, mental clutter that you might have that you don't even realize you do have, so that you can focus on what really matters to you. When your decision environment is free of clutter, it helps bring clarity to your life, it brings focus, and it definitely brings a lot more ease.